Or you can think of this like The Witcher, but with saints and demons. Hello, welcome to Books and Booze. I'm Alex. This is a series where I review books and I drink some booze. This time I'll be going over Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman. I hope I pronounced that correctly. And I'll also be finishing off a bottle of Basil Hayden toast, in which they take their typical bourbon recipe in a small batch and they char the barrels a little bit more than they usually do. So I figured toast, fire, it kind of goes together. Here we are. Salute to Christopher Buehlman and his novel Between Two Fires. Coming off a fast, so that hits a little bit different. But it has such a deep caramel flavor to it, and I guess the char maybe does that to it more so than I'm used to, like a lot of bourbons. And then the char does an interesting thing too, where it reminds me a lot of an Irish whiskey. I don't know why that would be the case. Maybe someone else out there knows better than me. But yeah, if you're into, things that have a little bit less of that vanilla spice flavor that bourbons can have, and more into kind of that caramel with a little bit of a smokiness from the char, you should seek this one out. It's really good. Anyhow, Between Two Fires is a 2012 period piece horror novel by Christopher Buehlman. It's set during the Black Plague in medieval France, and it follows this disgraced knight named Thomas, who is basically an outlaw or a brigand at this point, roaming the countryside, and he comes across a mysterious young girl named Delphine, and they travel across France on a journey that I won't say too much because of spoilers, but basically she kind of sets them off on this journey, while at the same time Lucifer and fallen angels are waging war against God in heaven. They also are joined up by a disgraced alcoholic priest, Father Matthew, and then as they wander medieval France, the Black Plague area is just ravaged, and Lucifer is fighting a war against God. These events kind of intersect with each other in more ways than you expect them to. And what starts mainly as kind of this period piece novel, historical fiction that covers horrific events, transforms into this supernatural, spiritual adventure book. And some of the central themes include redemption and renewal. But at the same time, you can even kind of take a theological slant with the novel and think of it as a theodicy or a defense as to why God would allow such disasters as the Black Plague to occur. Christopher Buehlman, from what I can tell, is a novelist, a comedian, a playwright and poet from St. Petersburg, Florida, and he is deeply immersed and fascinated by medieval culture. He apparently is quite well known around different Renaissance fairs throughout the American South. And I think just kind of throughout America in general, he has like certain bits that he plays and performs at these Renaissance fairs, and he's known for it. In addition to that, he studied French, and to my understanding, he's nearly fluent in the French language, and he has a fascination with medieval France that clearly shows through in this book. In addition to just his expansive knowledge of medieval France that builds to the immersion of this, he actually has a certification from the Society of American Fight Directors, so when he describes any of the sword combat or battles that occur, there's just an accuracy and realism to them that really kind of grounds you into those moments. And what's interesting is, by all accounts that I could tell going into this, Buehlman himself is agnostic, and he was at the time of writing this novel, or kind of stepping into agnosticism when he did. And this novel is sort of his exploration around kind of theological and spiritual questions and ideas that he's dealing with in that agnosticism. And to a certain degree, it reminds me a lot of Bergman, Ingmar Bergman, the film director, his exploration and dealing with kind of his agnosticism that he would go back and forth with throughout his entire life. I mean, from the get-go, a disgraced knight, the plague, wandering France with tons of spiritual and theological themes, it just makes me think of The Seventh Seal. And this novel, I think, leans into that a little bit. I think Buehlman would maybe appreciate that comparison, because I definitely felt it while I was reading it. It gets interesting tonally, right? Like, it's like The Seventh Seal meets The Witcher, or you can think of this like The Witcher, but with saints and demons. And that might get into like really kind of one of my few gripes or criticisms I had of the book while going through it. And it's just about tone, really. Because Buehlman isn't afraid to have comedy in there. He's not afraid to make it feel adventurous and action-packed. But there's something about that kind of clashes a lot of times with like these really powerful and potent moments. And I'm fully here to say it could be a me thing. And if that's the case and you felt differently about this, or you feel differently about media and cultural products that do that in general, let me know. But to me, it felt like a lot of the ideas and themes here were so moving at times. I was almost taken out of them when it would suddenly become more adventurous or action-packed or kind of humorous at times. And that might be a me problem, but you know, I just didn't expect the story to go as much into this action-adventure setting as it does. And there is certainly horror, and for some reason, the horror feels more grounded in the situations and even in the really moving moments than kind of the more adventure-y and epic action moments. But you know, could be a me thing. But getting into what I do like about this novel, there's a ton, and I highly recommend this book if any of those themes or kind of even that setup interest you. If you're interested in The Witcher but with Saints and Demons, seek this book out, because I highly recommend it in that regard. For one thing is, I actually think the style and how it's genre, not necessarily bending, but blending, genre blending, is really interesting, because Buehlman is very simple and direct with his language throughout, yet he's willing to be poetic and explore how these characters view moments and encounters and events through their own philosophical and spiritual lenses. Because the description of events at times is really just epic and kind of almost like biblical in a certain way. It's just phenomenal at times. As an example here, and I won't spoil anything too much, but this was definitely about 60 pages in. It's kind of where I suddenly realized, oh, we're dealing with a very different novel than I thought going into this. So this is when Thomas actually encounters kind of a demonic figure, and he's going to fight it. And it's this creature that's in this river. It's very strange, mimicking almost Lovecraftian demon that resides in this river and is tormenting this town. The tail slithered forward now, and the hand groped the side of the thing until it found the spear stuck in it, which it pulled out. Thunder grumbled behind it. The farmer, someone that was helping Thomas fight it, started whimpering an Ave Maria, and it cocked its head listening, its whiskers whipping excitedly. Thomas banged his fist heavily on the stout man's shoulder to shut him up, but he only prayed louder. Without warning, a ripple went through the thing, and the end of its tail lashed like the end of a whip. The hand released the boar spear, and it flew at the farmer as though it had been shot from an arrow blast. It would have skewered him right through his praying mouth had not Thomas shoved him. As it was, it laid open his cheek and his temple, and he screamed horribly. Then the creature did the worst thing Thomas had seen yet. It opened its mouth and exactly imitated the farmer's scream. And I hate that image. It reminds me a lot of that bear thing in Annihilation. You can replicate the screaming. It's haunting. It's even haunting in this book. The other thing that kind of really helps just enrapture you in this novel, all of the different tones that it has going on, is that the character development is phenomenal. I think that's a really strong point for Buehlman's writing. The growth through interactions and situations that these characters end up being threaded together from beginning to end is just incredible to see. What feels like a very organic growth in writing that I haven't really seen in quite a bit of time. And it feels long, right? It's not necessarily like a pinnacle moment that features on the novel that suddenly changes how these characters think. It feels like a very organic process as they're encountering new people and new situations that force them to kind of reassess how they're viewing the world, how they're viewing God, how they view Jesus, how they just view themselves in relation to humankind. I think is interesting given that Buehlman's agnostic, because I thought there were a lot of really great moments that I just call like Jesus moments throughout this novel. And there will probably be a little bit of spoilers in this review, but I'll give you the heads up later on. But I mean, that goes full on blown to actually having Jesus appear as a character eventually in the novel. But just as an example, and to show you more of Buehlman's writing, this is when they finally get into kind of a very terrible, ridden, torn apart Paris, and Thomas ends up kind of throwing his frustration toward this statue of Jesus that they come across. As they approach the bridge to the left bank, the girl sat up from where the priest had been holding her and looked at the gray waters of the Seine rushing under it. A dead sheep floated by but didn't keep going on the other side. The priest wondered if it had caught on debris down by the pier and if that debris included people, and surprised himself but not feeling anything about it. On the other side at the entrance to the Latin Quarter, they passed a painted wooden statue of Christ upon a pedestal rose, at the feet of which a feverish woman grinned, sweating, with a dead cat cradled in her arms. Thomas looked up at the long-headed Christ and said, not wholly under his breath, "You're dead too, aren't you? If not, get off that whoring thing and do something, or at least whoring wink at me. You can do that much, can't you?" It didn't wink, but the woman did. And it's just a really powerful moment, and it stuck with me, and it's fairly early on in the novel. It stuck with me through the whole novel, as it's a beautiful image of, as Jesus actually says, you know, he is in the meek, the weak, the beggars, and he's in this feverish woman who is gripping on to this dying cat, gripping onto a dying world, some innocent form of life. Through her, Jesus is basically, the way I read that moment, winking at Thomas in that moment, but he doesn't fully grasp that till much later on. And speaking of which, I mean, the character growth is basically what grounds every single big, weighty theme that Buehlman wants to explore. Redemption and renewal occurs for every character to be this. Thomas is this just disgraced and pretty awful and unlikable human being who you get to watch grow and be restored in an incredible journey. So at this part, I am going to get into a few spoilers, and I'll try to throw something up here that kind of jumps ahead real fast to just my general thoughts. But if spoilers don't bother you, keep listening. And some of this will also kind of highlight some of the things I thought were really great about this novel. So in general, of course, you have Thomas's arc as he kind of learns to restore hope in humankind, and in turn receive Jesus' love for him and learn how to spread that to others. But there were some really powerful decisions made here that I think in the hands of another writer would be held totally differently, and Father Matthew is one of those. It's revealed over the course of the novel that Father Matthew, and I'll use the language of struggles with homosexuality because that's how his character feels about it and how he is conditioned to basically view it. There's not this full renunciation of it in the name of, you know, going against religion or anything like that, because Father Matthew is really conveyed as a character who knows Jesus and accepts Jesus throughout the novel, despite this struggle that he has ongoing with it. And there's just a really powerful moment later on where, after he is killed by one of the fallen angels, it's alluded to that he's in heaven, and he interacts with Thomas after that fact. And I just thought, you know, like, good on him there. I feel like other writers would maybe handle that kind of character arc differently instead of conveying it how Buehlman does in this, and I think that makes it all the more powerful in terms of its themes of redemption and renewal and salvation. And then there's a lot of interesting things with Delphine, whose name is clearly laden with a metaphor of an oracle, where she clearly has something with the Holy Spirit going on, and at times that begins to blur toward the end of the novel, where you're trying to determine how Jesus might be working through her, or even if she is some embodiment of Jesus, at least to Thomas, which gets into probably one of the most incredible parts of the book, which is Buehlman's depiction of hell when Thomas dies. It is one of the most awful, horrific, unflinching depictions of hell I can imagine. And as a Jesus follower to Christopher Buehlman, kudos to you, because I think you've like nailed the essence of what that seems like in my mind. It's just absolutely horrific, and then he juxtaposes that with this remarkable depiction of Jesus Christ reaching out to Thomas in hell in a way that was incredibly moving. And I just wouldn't have expected, when you told me this was an epic tale of medieval horror, I wouldn't have expected that coming out of this book. So, do I give Between Two Fires by Christopher Buehlman an epic tale of medieval horror? I just gotta say, this is a sick cover. I don't try to seek this one out because I saw that the cover is different now, and this one's way more metal than what they have going on now. Anyways, does he get a toast of excellence? Absolutely, yeah, I think absolutely a toast of excellence for Between Two Fires. The overall plot and themes explored here felt so refreshing and honestly hopeful that you feel good reading it. However, the novel is brutally grounded in a realistic outlook on human evil, and I would even say the demonic. So it's not a feel-good read in the sense that like watching like a Wes Anderson film's like a feel-good movie or like a comfort movie, but it explores weighty and important ideas in a very meaningful yet exhilarating manner, and that's what I mean by like it feels good to read it, and there's hope at the end of this book, which, you know, feels hard to come by sometimes nowadays. So I appreciate Buehlman for that and his writing as well. So I encourage anyone that is somewhat likes any of the genres this book touches, whether you like horror, historical fiction, period pieces, action, or adventure, seek this out. And if you're like me, that I make the joke here and basically everywhere that existential angst is my favorite genre. If you just like books that deal with existential themes or theological and spiritual themes in a way that's not like super common, I would really suggest you seek out this book as well. So yeah, one more cheers, salute to Christopher Buehlman and Between Two Fires. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you are into longer form book reviews and analysis, then please think about subscribing to this channel. If you've read Between Two Fires and you had a different takeaway from it, I understand my experience with it is very slanted in one certain direction, or if you kind of thought, you know, something else a little bit differently about some of the moments or even the tone shifting that I called attention to, felt differently about that, let me know in the comments and we can start a discussion about it. Also, if you're into video essays and just analysis of cultural products, mainly movies, also look on my channel. I have various video essay series that I'm working on currently. There's a heavy focus on a post-secular series I'm doing right now, as well as a World War II movie series I'm doing. So please be sure to check those out. But until then, I will see you all on our next exploration.